Wait, isn't that your poor ex-wife? I thought she couldn't have kids. The whisper skimmed over crystal and chatter like a mosquito you can't swat. I adjusted one yellow bow, then another, then the third. Tiny sunbursts perched on three identical heads. The uptown Charlotte ballroom smelled like peonies and money. Darius stood near the bar, laughing in that way he does when eyes are on him. Then he saw me. Then he saw the girls, and the laugh cracked like glass. He had invited me here to be small. I hadn't realized how tall peace could stand until I walked in carrying it. My name is Mariah Lawson, and this is how I went from the woman who funded a man's dream and got erased to the woman who walked into his wedding with triplets on my hip and receipts in my purse and left with my dignity and my life intact. Before I start, please subscribe, like, and drop your country or state in the comments. This is Folktales by Cafu. Thank you for being here. I met Darius at Food Truck Friday off South Tryon when the sky was the color of ripe plums. He smelled like cedar and expensive plans. He called my thrifted dress boardroom green and said I had CEO eyes. I laughed because I was a cashier with a spreadsheet addiction and a heart that believed people could grow if you watered them long enough. He talked about launching a high-end mobile detailing service, ceramic coatings, monthly memberships, clients who flew first class. I heard plan, I heard partner, I heard home. The first red flag wore good manners. He still checked on Vanessa Briggs, the ex who seemed to have a permanent seat in his notifications. "We're family friends," he'd say, phone face down, screen still lighting up like a tiny sunrise. When I asked if we could set boundaries, his smile tightened the way lids do on jars you can't open. "What's wrong with you? You don't trust me?" It sounded like concern. It felt like a warning. The second red flag wrapped around my wrist, never hard enough to bruise, always tight enough to say who was in charge, if dinner wasn't exactly how he liked it. "What's wrong with you?" If I asked him to put his phone away at the table, "What's wrong with you?" When month after month the test line stayed stubbornly single and I said, "Let's both get checked," he laughed in a way that scraped. "I already have proof everything works on my end," he said, waving his phone with pictures of a little boy he treated like a son. "Proof, like a story you tell so you never have to see a doctor." I went anyway. I did the blood draws and the cold tables and the wand that felt like a question. The nurse squeezed my hand and said, "You are perfectly healthy, sweetheart." I brought the printouts home like a flag of hope. He set them near his keys and didn't look long. "Good for you," he said. "What's for dinner?" I heard the sentence he didn't say. See, the problem is still you. I am a saver. I skipped lattes and wore clearance like confidence. I set up a high-yield account and named it Ours Someday and fed it every pay period until the number looked like a miracle in green digits, USD 22,750. For a down payment, I told Aunt Laverne, who raised me on bus routes and church gum, or treatments if we need them. She kissed my forehead and said, "Baby, make sure the man who stands beside you can stand in front of you when it's time to protect you." Darius found out about the money on a Tuesday. He didn't look angry. He looked hungry. "Babe, listen, this is the moment," he said, spreading papers on our thrifted coffee table like a dealer. "Cole and Turner Mobile, detailing me and Malik Turner. We got the van ready. We need capital to wrap it. Buy ceramic. Launch memberships." This is our future. He said our future 3 times like a spell. He pulled me close and rested his chin on my hair. "You're investing in us, Mariah. I'll make this right for us. We'll have everything we dreamed." I don't know what made me press record on my phone that night. Maybe the tiny voice women grow from being told to doubt themselves. The audio caught his promises soft as syrup. Us. Our future, everything we dreamed. I transferred the money. He cried a little. I did too. The van got wrapped in a chrome blue skin that turned heads at red lights. Instagram went glossy foam slides, mirror finishes, Darius in new polos pointing to satisfied sedans. Membership tiers, silver, gold, diamond. Bookings poured like summer rain. With each new client, his voice settled into that register men discover when success stands too close, they start narrating their lives so loud they can't hear anyone else in the room. He began saying, "my company," instead of "our plan." At dinner, he scrolled through brand DMs and said, "this could be big." You don't get it. When I asked why the joint account was empty while the business card sparkled, he said, "What's wrong with you? Why can't you be happy for me?" 3 months after the wrap, I left work early with a bag of wings because the world felt soft. Laughter met me behind our apartment door, the precise pitch of Vanessa's and the easy bass of Darius's. I stood still while my hands remembered they were hands and not hummingbirds. "She's still playing house like this is a real marriage?" Vanessa asked, and then the sound that sliced Darius's laugh, coated in cologne, I did not buy. She gave me 22 grand and would have given me her kidneys if I asked nice. They laughed again, the way people do when they think they're the only ones in the story. I put the wings on the counter. He came out with the television smile on, like the world had just introduced him to himself. "What's for dinner?" he asked, and I cooked. I watched him eat with hands that didn't tremble, because trembling gives the game away. 3 days later, while I was washing a pan, he slid divorce papers across the table that still wobbled, because we never fixed the leg. "Sign these," he said. "And the money?" I asked, not dressing the question up in please. "A gift," he shrugged, the word careless as lint. I packed the Honda with what could fit and drove back to Aunt Laverne on the west side. She made tea I didn't drink and turned on the little lamp with the frayed shade. "Love shouldn't feel like you're begging for a seat in your own house," she said. That night I slept through without waking to check my phone. In the morning, the sun came anyway. Healing is mostly ordinary before it's holy. I learned the bus schedule by feel again. I joined a sliding scale therapy group that met in a room with thin carpet and thick kindness. I picked up early morning shifts at the grocery, stacked produce in pyramids that obeyed the laws of hope. That's where I met Noah Bennett, a videographer from a local nonprofit filming a food as medicine class. He asked if he could carry the boxes. He fixed Aunt Laverne's flickering porch light 2 days later without asking for anything but a Phillips head. He learned quickly that when I said, "I'm fine," I meant, "Please don't make me talk right now," and gifted me silence like a bouquet. Noah did not try to rescue me. He showed up. Groceries on check stretch weeks, rides to Auntie's appointments when my shift ran long. He kept his hand near mine and never on it unless I offered. When I told him about the money and the divorce and the way shame sometimes sits in your throat like a button you can't swallow, he got mad for me, not at me. "Some people build empires out of other people's belief," he said. "But belief isn't a currency you get to steal." The first seed of harvest bowls sprouted on a church bulletin. I wanted food that loved people back. Grain bowls with roasted vegetables and lemon tahini, bright slaws and rotisserie add-ons, dressings that taste like someone cares if you're eating. We tested in Aunt Laverne's galley kitchen sheet pans, thrifted mason jars, logo sketches on printer paper. The first pop-up was a folding table in a church parking lot with a hand-painted sign. "Lunch that loves you back $9. By noon, we had a line. We sold out of farro and switched to rice. A nurse bought 3 for her night shift. A mechanic said it tasted like Sundays. I cried later in the shower, where it's legal to cry. Year 1, I barely broke even. I cried over a blender gear at 4:07 a.m. and opened anyway because rent doesn't need reasons. Year 2, Noah cut a 90-second mini-doc with a voiceover that sounded steadier than I felt. The local morning show ran it between traffic and weather. Orders doubled, then tripled. We started shipping dressings in vacuum-sealed packs with a sticker that read, "Made in Charlotte with stubborn hope." I hired Keisha for mornings and Mr. Ramon for prep. 2 people who laugh like bellies remember joy first. When Noah asked me to dinner, I said I wasn't ready. He said, "Okay." When I was ready, it was a Friday with the world holding its breath. He took me to a small Italian place where the waiter knew his name and water glasses, sweat circles on the table. "I've been in love with you for a while," he said, not making a show of it, just setting the truth down, the way you set down keys when you're home. My heart didn't sprint. It nodded. We married at the courthouse. I wore a white dress that cost $39. Aunt Laverne held sunflowers tied with twine. It was perfect because it was real. A month later, I felt dizzy while labeling jars. I thought it was exhaustion. Harvest bowls had outgrown the kitchen faster than my courage could keep up. I took a test in the staff bathroom, then another, then one more, because sometimes good news needs a second opinion. The doctor's office smelled like disinfectant and old magazines. Noah held my hand like he was holding a small bird. At 7 weeks, the ultrasound blinked once, then twice, then a third tiny flicker that made the room tilt. Triplets. The tech grinned. I forgot to breathe. What if something goes wrong? I whispered later. Noah kissed my forehead. What if everything goes right? He said, and we decided to believe him. The day the invitation came, I spilled coffee on it and thought the stain looked like a map to nowhere. Darius and Vanessa, Uptown Ballroom, black tie, hashtags that sounded like ads. There was a handwritten note. We'd love to have you there to celebrate how far we've all come. I heard the subtext. Come see what I made out of what you gave me. I held the card like it was hot. We can ignore it, Noah said, wiping the drip with his thumb. We can also go, if you want to put a period on that whole paragraph. Aunt Laverne looked up from her crossword. If you do go, wear your piece like perfume. We decided to go because some doors you close while looking them in the eye. The girls had matching yellow dresses that turned them into sunflowers with legs. I wore emerald green because that color remembers who I am. Noah looked like a magazine cover in charcoal. We took a car because I didn't want to circle for parking and because sometimes it's okay to be carried. The hotel glittered like wealth trying to impress itself. The doorman smiled at our tiny parade, his eyebrows lifting when he counted 1, 2, 3 bows. Inside, signs pointed to the Cole Briggs wedding. Mama, is this a party for us? Zora asked. No, baby, I said. It's a party for somebody who forgot how to be kind. She considered this, then nodded, like it made sense. Cocktail hour hummed. People turned when we walked in, but pretended they weren't looking. I saw Darius near the bar, his suit tailored to an inch of its life, happiness arranged on his face like furniture. He looked up and the arrangement fell. Mariah, he said, voice thin. Hello, Darius, I said. Thank you for inviting us. Congratulations. His eyes dropped to the girls, then skittered to Noah like he'd found the source of a sound he couldn't place. They're yours? He asked, counting in his head. Ours, I said, and kissed Zaya's curls. Zaya, Zora, Zuri. Noah introduced gently. They waved as if the world were always this simple. Vanessa approached in a dress that could make a stranger sigh. She didn't recognize me at first. Your daughters are beautiful, she said, and then my name worked its way through her face. I watched the awareness harden and then soften, like butter deciding how to be. Thank you, I said. You look radiant. Congratulations. She nodded, eyes flicking to Darius for a cue he didn't have. We were seated near the back still in the room, just out of focus. The flowers leaned like they wanted to hear everything. The first speeches went by easily, best man jokes, maid of honor tears, a cousin who shouldn't have had the mic. Then Darius stood. He is good at rooms. He knows where to find the sympathy lighting. I used to think love meant putting up with each other, he said. Smile warmed to the right wattage. But real love is partnership, accountability. It's building something that lasts. People hummed their agreement. I wasn't always a good man, he continued. I had a past that wasn't right for me. But when you find the person who makes you better, you leave the past where it belongs. His eyes slid toward me for a fraction, like a blade turned sideways. Vanessa's turn. She began sweetly, then shifted into the part I had felt coming like weather. Some women love with conditions, she said gently, eyes shining. When things get tough, they check out. But I stood by Darius, and together we built a family. The room leaned in. And for anyone who said it couldn't happen with him, well, look at us now. The word unfruitful didn't pass her lips, but it landed in mine anyway. Noah's hand found my knee. Aunt Laverne pursed her mouth into a line that could draw blood if you touched it. The DJ invited open toasts. A few more spoke. Then the room breathed like it was done. I stood. The DJ's eyebrows climbed. "Name?" he asked. "Mariah Lawson," I said evenly. "Darius's ex-wife." The inhale around us was almost musical. I walked to the mic feeling like my heels had learned to be hooves. "First," I said, "thank you for inviting me to witness your joy. I meant it. Joy and I have a treaty now. Vanessa, you look beautiful. Darius, congratulations." I saw shoulders loosen. Then I reached into my purse and removed my phone and a thin folder. "I brought 2 small things to share," I said. "Receipts, not to embarrass anyone, but to honor truth." I hit play. Darius's voice filled the ballroom, softer, younger. "You're investing in us, Mariah. I'll make this right for us. We'll have everything we dreamed." I let it run 10 seconds, then stopped it. That was the night I transferred USD 22,750, my entire savings, into the business that helped build this beautiful evening, I said, and set a printed bank transfer confirmation on the lectern where the front table could see. At the time, I thought I was investing in a marriage. Turns out, I was investing in myself because it taught me who I am when the contract is only with my conscience. I lifted the second document, a 1-page letter on clinic letterhead. "For years I was told I was the reason there were no children," I said. "This is a physician's note from my workup. No abnormalities detected. Fertility within expected range. I won't speak for anyone else's body. That isn't my place. I will only say that shame is often assigned by the loudest person in the room, not the truest." I gestured toward the back where my daughters had begun to braid each other's fingers. 3 little witnesses remind me of that every day. I turned to Vanessa. "You deserve every good thing," I said quietly. "Marriage is a long road. I hope truth is invited into your house daily. It's the only guest who cleans up after itself." She blinked, and for a second her eyes weren't a weapon. They were a door. "Finally," I said, facing the room again, "we are not our worst choices, but we are responsible for them. Darius, thank you for what I learned. I don't wish you ill. I wish you honesty. It's lighter to carry." I set the mic down before emotion could catch me by the ankle. Then I walked back to my family, to a hand that met mine like we had practiced. Charlotte is small when it wants to be. The next morning, an uptown gossip blog ran "Ballroom Toast goes off script" with blurry photos and kinder comments than I expected. A few high-profile clients paused their Cole & Turner memberships pending review. A week later, a woman named Jennifer Martinez called harvest bowls between our lunch rush and my second batch of lemon tahini. "I represent a party with interest in a potential claim," she said very lawyerly. "If your funds were used to start a company and there was clear inducement, your audio there may be a path to compensation." I had not gone to the wedding to collect anything but my peace. But justice has a way of tugging your sleeve when you try to leave the room too quickly. I asked Noah what he thought. "If the law says that money has a claim, then honoring the truth isn't revenge," he said. "It's repair." We filed. There were depositions that smelled like carpet cleaner and coffee. There were emails from Malik confirming purchase orders timed neatly with my bank transfer. There was my audio, which didn't shout or threaten, it simply promised. There were months where I forgot about it until I couldn't. The hearing day arrived with rain that sounded like someone apologizing to the roof. I wore the emerald dress again because it felt like armor. Darius's lawyer said the money was a gift, no strings, no terms. Jennifer set the bank transfer confirmation beside a transcript of the audio and a timeline of vendor invoices. "Words are strings," she said softly. "Promises are terms." When the judge read the decision, USD 236,000 for original investment, interest, and attributable growth, my chest didn't explode with victory. It exhaled. On the courthouse steps, I watched buses breathe and thought about the price of lessons. I kept what we needed to expand. Harvest bowls, a second line, a combi oven, health insurance for Keisha and Mr. Ramon. Then I donated the rest, evenly split, to 3 local organizations that do the work women need when their lives are ash and Tuesdays. Second Start Women, job training, safe harbor legal aid, family law, and Grace House, transitional housing. We did a simple announcement on our website because attention is a spice I use sparingly. The attention found us anyway. The morning show returned to film our new space while Zaya tried to sneak on camera and Mr. Ramon pretended not to cry. A reporter asked if I'd speak about resilience. A book club invited me to talk about recipes that taste like home. Noah caught me on video slicing peppers with a face that looked like rest. "You look like yourself," he said. "I didn't know I'd ever get to," I answered. "I didn't tell you everything about the years in between the pretty parts that blurred into the painful parts until I couldn't tell which was which. Maybe that's why the ballroom felt like a finish line." You deserve the whole race. Darius's charm had a way of rearranging a room. The first month we dated, he showed up with a bouquet made of folded service receipts, each petal a tiny promise. "One day you won't clock in," he said. "You'll sign checks." We ate food truck tacos on the curb, and he sketched membership tiers on a napkin. $39, basic, $69, premium, $119, diamond. Every time he wrote the word "our," my chest opened like windows in spring. He knew how to dress success even before he owned any. A fresh fade, spotless sneakers, the kind of watch that looks expensive in photos. He called his mother every Sunday on speaker, as if I should overhear how kind he was. He tipped extra when the waiter was watching. He loved big ideas, loud rooms, and people who said yes. He did not love the word boundary. I learned the passcode to his phone twice. Once when he chose it in front of me, once when he changed it. "Privacy," he said, voice gone mild and dangerous. "What's wrong with you?" The first time he fell asleep at Malik's and came home at 3:17 a.m. He held me so softly, I almost apologized for worrying. The second time, I stopped asking questions he had no intention of answering. We had good days. Charlotte in spring as a gentle show-off. We walked the rail trail with milkshakes and tried to guess who in the skyline had a corner office and a plant that never died. He bought me a thrifted blazer and said, "Now you look like what you are, not what they pay you." I liked being seen by him. I didn't see that he was painting me in his colors. I got serious about trying to conceive, because someday kept shrinking. I tracked temperatures, peed on plastic, downloaded an app that chirped like a bird when it thought I was fertile. The first late period, we celebrated with wings. The second, he bought champagne before the test said no. By the sixth, all the hope leaked out of my cheeks into my hands. "Let's both get checked," I said. He smiled, like I had told a joke that missed. "I've got proof, babe," he said, lifting the phone. The little boy on the screen wearing a T-ball uniform. Proof is a convenient word when facts are expensive. At the clinic, the tech with butterfly earrings echoed everything in calmer language. Ovaries look good, uterus looks healthy, blood work is within range. I wanted to bottle her voice and take it home. I settled for the printouts. He tucked them under a pizza coupon and asked if I'd remembered to pay the power bill. Money made him warm. When I showed him our someday with its patient USD 22,750, he looked at me the way people look at sunsets from hotel balconies. "This is why I chose you," he said. You think, I know now he meant you'll fund. He talked through costs: $3,600 for wrap and design, $1,200 for a commercial-grade generator, $980 for initial ceramics, $600 for uniforms and merch, $1,100 for a website and booking plugin, $1,500 cushion for fuel and unexpected fixes. "We keep the rest for runway," he said, kiss landing on my forehead like a signature. That night, in the yellow lamplight, I pressed record on my phone and set it on the dresser because a quiet part of me didn't trust my memory against his narration. His voice is there still. Syrup and certainty. "You're investing in us. I'll make this right for us. We'll have everything we dreamed." If you listen closely, you can hear the zipper on his new duffel and the soft sound of my relief. The business took off in a way that makes a person think the universe is co-signing. First week, 19 bookings. Second week, 31. By week 4, Diamond Packages sold out 3 Saturdays in a row. He posted time lapses of foam sliding off Teslas like snow. He said me on camera and we in the kitchen. When I asked where the membership deposits were landing, he showed me the business account on his phone, flicked the screen, then went back to editing. "What's wrong with you?" he said. The phrase now a file folder for everything he didn't want to discuss. The day I overheard him and Vanessa, I was carrying a sack of party wings and the last 5 minutes of my denial. The marinade leaked onto my wrist like the scene needed a stain. She laughed like she had been practicing. He laughed like success had taught him new notes. Their words were small, ordinary cruelties. It wasn't the insults that did it. It was the ease, how each sentence sat comfortably in their mouths, like truth had moved out and they'd converted the room into a lounge. I cooked anyway because grief likes rituals. 3 days later, he slid the divorce papers over the wobbly table and said, "Gift," and a part of me finally believed him. I had gifted him the chance to show me who he was. Back at Aunt Laverne's mine, healing came in chores. I wiped down counters and felt the sponge pull something heavy out of me. I folded towels, I matched socks, I learned the names of my neighbor's dogs. Therapy was a room with chairs that didn't match, and a box of tissues we passed without shame. We talked about gaslighting and plain words, how being told you're the problem works like fog. Everything looks familiar and wrong at once. We wrote new rules on index cards. If I have to shrink to fit, it is not my size. Confusion is not romance. Our future requires present truth. Noah arrived like a person who doesn't need to be loud to be heard. He filmed kids learning to chop onions without slicing their fingers. He asked before he touched anything. He loved making things visible, community fridges, coat drives, health fairs. We shared silence easily. When he finally said, "I think I'm falling for you," it sounded like an observation, not an escalation. I remember the relief of that. Harvest bowls started with arithmetic and affection. I priced bowls at $9 because my neighbors could pay that without sacrificing bus fare. My food cost target was 28-32% per bowl, labor 25%. I gave myself $0 the first 3 months and then $350 per week because courage still has bills. I got a cottage kitchen permit, passed ServSafe, and set alarms for prep, pop-ups, and sleep. Farmers at the Saturday market taught me to talk to produce how sweet potatoes tell you they're ready by how they smell, how kale curls mean massage me with oil. Noah designed the logo, a simple bowl with 3 leaves making a heart. I cried in the parking lot when I saw it because it looked like a promise I could keep. Our pop-ups were held together with painter's tape and stubbornness. We ran square on a phone with a cracked screen and smiled when it worked. We learned Charlotte's appetite by weather. We learned people want to be known, how the nurse prefers extra pickled onions, and the electrician wants double chicken, but only if I say, "I got you first." When the mini-doc aired, the anchor said, "A local spot feeding bodies in dignity," and I wrote dignity on the walk-in with a dry erase marker so we didn't forget what we were actually selling. Pregnancy with Triplets is not a montage. It's a calendar taped to your refrigerator and a list of foods you didn't know you were supposed to crave. The maternal fetal medicine specialist was kind without being sweet. "We'll monitor you closely," she said. "More appointments, more rest. Tell your business you'll be a little bit gone." I told the business. It frowned and then adapted. Keisha took mornings. Mr. Ramon took procurement. I learned to sit. I learned to let people help without explaining why it didn't feel like failure. We named the girls on index cards and kept changing our minds until Zaya, Zora, and Zuri wouldn't let go of us. The first time they kicked in chorus, Noah laughed and pressed his ear to my belly like he was listening for a chorus line. At night, when fear crept in with its clipboard of what-ifs, he whispered the refrain that would become the signature on our new life. What if everything goes right? When Darius's invitation arrived, I asked myself if showing up was healing or performance. The answer surprised me. "It's closure," I told Aunt Laverne, "but on my terms." She looked over her glasses. "On truth's terms," she corrected. We prepared like it was a small campaign. I gathered receipts, the audio and the bank transfer confirmation, a one-page physician's note that said what it needed without saying more. Noah printed them on paper that didn't crinkle. I chose the emerald dress because I needed to feel like a woman who could sit still while a room tried to move her. In the ballroom, when I played the audio and set down the bank confirmation, the room changed temperature. It wasn't the drama, it was the sound of a narrative swapping owners. I didn't plan to bring up fertility, but Vanessa's toast needed antidote. I kept it simple. I did not use the word barren, I never will. I said healthy, and range, and shame belongs to whoever put it there. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for a room is put the facts where everyone can see them and then sit down. What happened after the blog, the calls, the pause in memberships felt like gravity resetting, not like a vendetta. When Jennifer explained the legal road, she did it with plain nouns: inducement, reliance, attributable growth. We sent a demand letter with the audio transcript, the transfer, and a tidy timeline that made dates look like dominoes. Darius countered with gift. We filed. Discovery turned emails into evidence. A vendor note read, "Deposit received thanks to DC and ML with a date 2 days after my transfer." Malik's spreadsheet named each purchase like a breadcrumb. The judge's math added interest at a rate my high-yield account could only aspire to. When the number $236,000 landed, it didn't ring. It thudded, sensible as a good pair of work shoes. I didn't dance. I texted Keisha and Mr. Ramon, a heart and a flex. We bought a combi oven, a second prep table, a used delivery van that smelled like lemons. I set up employer-sponsored health insurance with a broker who said, "Congratulations on doing right by your people." Then I called the 3 orgs we'd chosen: Second Start Women, Safe Harbor Legal Aid, Grace House, and said, "We want to help keep a few women out of the rooms I had to walk through." The donations made a small splash. Women started emailing us stories that sounded like mine wearing different clothes. A girl from Gastonia wrote, "I'm saving for my own someday. What password did you use?" I told her to choose one she could say without crying. A retired teacher said our slaw tasted like the cafeteria should have tasted in 1987. A man sent $50 and an apology for someone he used to be. We added a line on our menu: "Every bowl is a yes to somebody's future." I heard things about Darius the way you hear weather. He and Malik split. The van stayed with the business. The business shrank until it fit into someone else's garage. He started managing bookings for a competitor out in Matthews. He wore a polo without his name on it. I believed the rumor not because I wanted to, but because humility sounded like a shirt he hadn't tried on yet. I didn't check his socials. I don't live there. Parenting 3 toddlers is advanced improvisation. If one wants the blue cup, they all want the blue cup. If one wants broccoli trees, they all debate forestry policy. We do bath shift work, bedtime negotiations, and the 7:12 p.m. Cheerios treaty. On Saturdays, we take them to Freedom Park and count turtles. On Sundays, we eat pancakes and tell the truth. 3 small versions, 1 big one. Sometimes I catch Noah watching us with that open look, like everything he ever tried to capture on camera has finally walked into his kitchen. The speaking invites surprised me. I said yes to a small women's conference at a library meeting room that smelled like old paper and new plans. I talked about dignity, economics, how your first investor might be your own careful self, and how to protect her. I read the list from my fridge aloud. Be specific: dates, dollars, promises. Keep receipts, literal and emotional. Ask for tests, medical, financial, relation. Name what you're building. Say it out loud until it feels like a room you live in. Peace over performance. Show up where healing happens, not where applause is loudest. 3 women cried in the second row. I told them crying is allowed, quitting is not required, and revenge is a poor meal, even when it's seasoned well. Afterward, a young man came up with his hat in his hands. "I used to be a Darius," he said quietly. "I'm working on being a Noah." I told him that sounded like a good job. People ask about Vanessa. I don't know her heart. I know rooms can make you cruel if you think love is a trophy you have to defend. I meant it when I said she deserved good things. Truth is one of them. I hope she let it move in. People ask if I forgave Darius. Forgiveness is a thing I do in the quiet, not a medal I pin on anybody. I decided to live unpunished by his choices. That's enough for me. At the shop, we added a gratitude wall. It's a whiteboard near the register where people write names and numbers. Aunt D, 90 days sober. First week back at work, 3 shifts down. $600 saved for my someday. The girls draw hearts with wonky arrows. Customers take pictures with their bowls and their proof. Sometimes I stand to the side and watch strangers hold up their small victories, like receipts. It is my favorite show. Every now and then, the old refrain, "What's wrong with you?" tiptoes in wearing a coat that looks like doubt. I answer out loud, so my daughters hear me. Nothing that truth can't hold. Then I say the line Noah gave me back when I was learning how to be new. What if everything goes right? It sounds naive until you live it. One last thing I didn't say in the toast because the ballroom didn't deserve it. Thank you, younger me, for pressing record. Thank you for saving $22,750 in a world that kept sending you reasons to spend it. Thank you for leaving when leaving was a kind of dying. Thank you for building a life that is not a reaction, but a design. If you're listening to this in a car or at a sink full of dishes or in a break room where the clock moves slow, let me put this on your fridge a minute. You are not the worst thing someone told you about yourself. Your receipts are not just paper. They are proof of belief. Start saving proof. Start naming rooms. Start moving chairs until the life you want has somewhere to sit. My name is Mariah Lawson. I am a woman who learned to invest in what invests back. I am a mother to 3 girls who will grow up fluent in no and generous with yes. I am the owner of Harvest Bowls, where meals come with forks and, sometimes, futures. The wedding that was supposed to make me small taught me scale. Peace, it turns out, is taller than chandeliers. What would you have done in my shoes? Ignore the invitation, or walk in with receipts and dignity? I'd love to hear your take in the comments. And if this story gave you breath where you were out of it, please subscribe, like, and share with someone who needs a gentle push. We post daily on Folktales by Kafoo.